Hallo, ich bin ein Watch-Reviewer. My name is The Time Teller. And we are going to look at the circular hair. Okay, people are going to complain about this caricature I'm doing of a German person, so we're just going to go ahead and stop that right now. All jokes aside, people complain left and right that I don't talk about German watches nearly enough on this channel. And thank you for everyone that mentions in my comment section that I don't talk about German watches because I'm Jewish. I wasn't aware. I mean, I'm aware that I'm Jewish. I wasn't aware that I didn't like German watches because of that. I do like German watches. See, you guys are messing with my head. I like German watches, some of them. Am I not supposed to?
Hello?
Hello?
Is George supposed to like German watches?
I don't think so.
But okay, here on my wrist is a German watch. Oh my God. The Circula Heritage. Special thanks to Circula for sponsoring this episode and sending me this watch to review. Now, I'm actually not going to keep this watch. I will send it back to Circula, but it doesn't mean I can't take a look while it's here. It's 2:58 p.m. Let's get down to business. Now guys, right off the bat, my first critique on this watch is I don't know if my lapel mic can pick that up, but every time I move my wrist even a little bit, that PUW movement is like, I'm not gonna go into another ASMR segment. But also, people complain about this wrinkle that some of my t-shirts have, and it's because of my lapel mic. Okay, so when it comes to the Circula watch, it's kind of a mixed bag, not in terms of quality, but in terms of things I like. So in typical T3 fashion, I have pros and cons that I want to talk about, but let's go ahead before we do any of that and look at the specs on this baby. This Circula Heritage has got a 41 millimeter diameter. Now it's 11.9 millimeters thick. The website says 11.6. I was actually unable to replicate that measurement with my caliper tool. Now the website specifies it's handmade in Germany. Now, there's nothing that leads me to believe otherwise, but you know, they specified that, so I'm just going to say it here. It's got a double curved, double anti-reflective coated sapphire crystal, 50 meter water resistance rating, a display case back showing off that very loud PUW 1661S automatic movement. That movement has got 21 joules, a 21,600 BPH vibration, a 40-hour power reserve, and it's running at -10 to +15 seconds per day, so it's not quite within COSC standards, if that matters to you. Now, real quick, something I found very recently on COSC's website under their precision page. Take a look at this. All right, so I don't know if it's my copywriting background, my marketing background, my consulting background as a whole that's kind of just bothering me about this, but this is perhaps one of the worst written headers in the history of anything. See if you're as confused as me. One of the criteria for Chronometer certification is the average daily rate on the first 10 days of testing, from -4 seconds to +6 seconds, or up to 10 seconds per day, a tolerance which, as such, may appear high, but which, in reality, is the result of an extraordinary requirement. It's like Christopher Walken wrote this. A tolerance which, as such, may appear high, but which, in reality, is the result of an extraordinary requirement. Okay, let's get back to the Circula Heritage wristwatch, because that's why you're here. All right, so now that we understand the specifications on the Circula Heritage, let's go over more of the pros and cons, kind of my observations as I see them. So the first thing I really like about the Circula Heritage is that it's got a 41 millimeter diameter, okay? I've often said that 40 millimeters or just below that is kind of the sweet spot, right? Watches that fall under that criteria fit a multitude of wrists, big or small. Now I understand this is just above 40 millimeters, but 1 extra millimeter, you probably won't notice that on your wrist. But here's what I don't like about the dimensions. This watch has got a 48.6 millimeter lug to lug. Now they interestingly leave out that metric on their website, and that kind of bothers me because although this watch does have a 41 millimeter diameter, and I measured that, the 48.6 millimeter lug to lug means that this watch takes up a ton of real estate on your wrist. Now I have just above a 7.5 inch wrist, and the lugs are almost totally covering my wrist from side to side, and that's a big watch. So yeah, guys, that's the first thing that kind of bothers me about this watch. Now, I don't know if the lug-to-lug measurement was on their website and I just couldn't find it, or maybe they have it on there now, but at my personal website, I make sure that all the watches there have lug-to-lug measurements, because the diameter of a watch doesn't really indicate as accurately how big the watch will wear on your wrist. Again, try to look for lug-to-lug measurements. So I wish that they had the 48.6 lug-to-lug measurement listed, because again, if you have a smaller wrist than mine, this watch is going to look enormous on you. Now, from what I can see, and I'm gonna get some macro shots for you, the case finishing looks pretty neat and tidy. Now, I think that this is the R&D model, so this has been passed along to a few different reviewers, but from what I can tell, everything looks pretty sharp and pretty smooth where it's supposed to be. Now, one thing I really like is even the movement when you take the watch off and look through the case back, it's pretty well finished. Now, it's not really decorated in any sort of way, but it looks clean in there. And believe me, guys, that might sound like kind of a given, but I've taken a look at a lot of watches, some watches that aren't even micro brands, that have very poorly finished movements, and it just, I don't know, it makes you wonder. Now, another thing I really like when it comes to finishing on this watch is the screw heads on the case back. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've been sent a watch, or I've seen a watch with screwed case backs, and the screws, they're kind of just messed up, almost stripped on the heads, and that's a huge bummer because, the little things, the detailing, the finishing quality, that speaks to how much time is spent with a watch. So if the screw heads are all stripped and messed up, and I don't know, it's just kind of a bummer. It shows you that they don't really care about the small things. So yeah, huge pet peeve of mine is when, screw heads or simple things like that are just butchered. Take the time, do it right, and people will appreciate you for it. All right, so the next observation of mine is 100% subjective, and you guys might not agree with me at all, and that's fine, but it's my review, so I'm gonna tell you how I see it. This blue dial, I'm not a huge fan of it. Okay, so I went on their website and I looked at some of the other colorways, and there's one that stands out that I think I'm a bit more partial to. So the white dial with the blue hands and their red gold case, as they call it, that one looks a bit more appealing, a bit more my speed. This blue dial, I'm just not a huge fan, and let me explain why. So the applied indexes, the big numerals, they catch some light and they look nice and tidy on that blue dial, but they don't contrast super well. And what's even more of a bummer is that the numerals don't contrast nearly as much as that ugly Circula font in the middle of the dial. Guys, I do not like that at all. I don't need really hyper stylized cursive-y font. Less is more, and I'd be fine with no font on the dial. So basically, in my opinion, these numerals kind of get lost in the blue, and then Circula just pops out at you because it's just plain white, and then it's kind of just an ugly font, and that kind of turns me off. But yeah, I'd like to take a look at maybe some of the other colorways, and maybe my opinion would change, but when it comes to this blue watch, I don't want to, this is going to be the most harsh thing I can say about this piece. The blue dial with that Circula font, it kind of makes the watch look cheap, which it is not. This watch comes in over $800. But aside from, the blue dial with the white font, and aside from that kind of, stylized cursive font that I'm not partial to, the watch is very neat, very simple, and very easy to wear. It lays very flat on the wrist, but again, if you have a smaller wrist than mine, and my wrist is a bit larger than 7.5 inches, that 48.6 millimeter lug to lug, it's going to be very big on you. So that's something you gotta take into consideration. But overall, guys, there's nothing about this watch that doesn't feel absolutely solid. It feels great on the wrist. Everything is, again, neat and tidy. I love that it has a sapphire crystal. The case back looks great. The movement looks great. That movement's very, very loud though. But yeah, if you're looking for a very simple, easy to read watch that happens to be handmade in Germany, this could be a great option. Again, it's over $800 though, and the dial and the font, just not for me. But again, I'd be absolutely open to looking at some other colorways. That red gold white dial with the blue hands, that's much more appealing to me. I really wish they sent me that one. But here you have it, guys, the Circula Heritage German-made wristwatch, PUW 1660S automatic movement, solid, neat, and yeah, German. But guys, as always, let me know what you think. What's your favorite German watch? Do you have any German watches? I know a lot of people are gonna say Nomos, Junghans. I'd love to hear from you. Leave me that comment. We can talk in the comment section below. And I'd like to hear what you think about the price tag. Over 800 bucks for a German-made micro brand. A lot of you guys might not have heard of this. Do you think it's justified? Leave me that comment as well. I'm sure there will be a heated debate there. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking in. And yeah, this might be one of the last reviews of 2019. Oh, whatever. See you next decade. All right, guys, so there's a bunch of ways to support the channel. The easiest one is just to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and watch the content. Obviously, I want you to watch, have fun with us. What are you doing? Why are you here if you're not gonna have fun with us? And of course, please check out all the links in the description below. Those will take you to my Amazon affiliate store, so when you shop using those links, you help us out a bunch. Also, check out www.thetimetellershop.com. That's my personal website. Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share this with everyone you know. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. Always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Let's just have some fun this holiday season, yeah? I love you. Real quick, if you enjoyed this episode, then do not worry, the fun doesn't need to stop here. Check out these recommended episodes that are gonna be popping up on the screen anytime now. Also, take a moment, check out my brand new channel, the Time Away channel. It's where I talk about everything outside of the watch world, some of my other collections, some of my other hobbies. And if you're not interested in any of that, don't worry, just stay right here and I will see you right here. Because I never leave. I am trapped inside of this camera.